Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the inaugural edition of what I'm calling Unplugged. It may have a different name at some point, maybe not. I've already said this name, so it might just stick.
I'll say.
This is a just a little project I decided to do because I'm interested to learn about people in this fucked up fed world of ours. So hoping I can get people on to just kind of come on and talk for however long it ends up going. Hopefully not obnoxiously long like we do on Shooting the Shite Wednesdays at 11:30.
Yeah,
Got to get the plug
been
in.
on that show.
Yeah, the show where we fucking sit there and just ramble on incoherently for 4 or 5 hours a week. But it's a fun time.
It is. My episode was actually quite short. My episode was like an hour.
Let's see. How long ago was that?
It was got to be over a year now.
Yeah, the format has honestly completely changed from what it was back then. Now it's just it's me, Josh, Lenore, and Mike Dom.
That makes sense. More
And-
people, longer show.
Yeah, and we just get on and talk about whatever the fuck. Sometimes it's wrestling, sometimes it's e-fed shit, sometimes it's like, I think last week we talked about like conspiracy theories and aliens and shit.
Nice.
Yeah, so we just talk about a variety of things. So yeah, but yeah, hopefully this won't be nearly as crazy long as those are. And the first official episode is featuring the one, the only Casey Campbell.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Body's a little beat up, but that comes with what I do. So,
Yeah, right. I swear I am infinitely jealous.
Don't be.
Oh,
it's hard work. I got a show coming up on Saturday that I'm doing ring crew and security for, and then I got one the next Saturday. It's literally 16-hour work days, man. It's a trip. It's the funnest you'll ever have on your feet for 16 hours, but
I bet.
just being a part of it. But
Yeah.
with
next Friday, me and the family are going to a micro wrestling show.
micro wrestling, we have that around here too.
Yeah.
I've never been, but my family's been.
I haven't been to a wrestling show in general since like 2011 or 2012 because it just nothing comes around anywhere close to this area.
Y'all don't have like an indie fed around?
The closest one is probably a good 2 or 3 hours from me.
Ooh, so
Yeah.
no wrestling for Kentucky.
Not
Which is
really.
weird.
OVW has the state basically on lock.
That makes
That's
sense.
the most. No, it's like I remember me and Vegas one day. We were just like talking one day because we hadn't talked in months, and we just like connected one morning, and we're just kind of talking, and we got to talking about that, and he started looking around. And he's like, "Holy shit, there are no fucking like schools in your state, dog." And I'm like, "I know, I've tried this.
Zero.
It doesn't.
Zero.
I'm gonna have to change states to go find somewhere to go."
Exactly. And even if you do change states, a lot of them like make you sign a contract and like
Yeah.
ask for shit up front. Like
Yeah, and it's like it's a process.
it is a money vacuum. Luckily, I found a school that's very financially conscious. And no long-term financial commitment. It is a one payment a month type deal. So if life gets in the way, you're able to pause your shit and do what you need. And like, it's weird. We've gotten a lot of flack for that business model. And I'm like, why would you not want this to be something like, we don't make a lot of money anyway. So why wouldn't you want a business model that help? Well, I mean, I get it, capitalism, but yeah, it's just one of those things where I looked into two of the training schools around me, and it's just not affordable at all.
I know
Um,
the OVW prices when I looked at them were like, I think it totaled up to like $6,000 total.
mm.
It's
Yeah, see, that's
ridiculously expensive.
no,
Like
that's not.
it's the only game in town.
Yeah, that's you're paying upwards of like $2,000 to $6,000 for this, and that's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just not feasible. And I mean, I suppose maybe the training would be more consistent, but like,
Yeah, because I mean,
is
you know,
it
you put
though?
OVW, it has like birthed some of like the best to ever do it, but it's also
Well,
like,
yeah, market. But is that team really still there though? Is that just that's a question you got to ask
that's
yourself.
that is very true as well. You know, a lot of people don't really think about it beyond that. I don't know though. It's
It's name recognition.
yeah,
It's not actually how it is, and
yeah.
there's a lot of research that goes into like picking a school and all of this, but we're not really here to talk about all that. But
Yeah, it comes up, it comes up. But yeah, we've got we've got this this whole thing going on. So you're one of the I'm especially curious on this one. I'm curious about this with a lot of people, but sort of the life before the Fed shit, right?
yeah.
I'm curious to know like what people did before. So like what was kind of your stuff before all of this?
Before EFED,
Yeah.
I went to a lot of punk shows. It's how I met TJ Vegas. TJ and I have known each other for over a decade now. He lives like 10 minutes away from my house, so we've just been going to punk shows since we were like 16, 17. We didn't really interact a lot before we were like 20, but I don't know. I was very much a closeted wrestling fan, but then like one day he made a wrestling reference and I was like, "Oh my god." And like so we talked about wrestling, we watched wrestling and all that. And that sort of spiraled into a few years later where he's like, "Oh yeah, we're doing SPW." And I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" He's like, "Oh, you cut promos on people and we write up the matches and all that." And since I had long since wanted to be a professional wrestler, I can't. I got two steel rods in my back, which is why I'm a manager in real life. I hopped right in, and it was not good. It was not. It was not great. It was not amazing, even though I called myself Mr. Amazing, like pretty much right from the outset. That was an old gimmick I developed in like the original SmackDown versus Raw games. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I don't know, I met Grant. I met Luke Alexander, who also lives in New Hampshire, Daniel Hagney, just a foundation of what the game would eventually become, for better or worse. A lot of that started for me just one day when TJ hit me up. So that's pretty much how I got into the game.
Okay. That's interesting because like I think back to I think back to use kind of myself. I've got like two different starting points. I started doing 2K. And then the video stuff came like years later.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have any of that fancy 2K Fed nonsense. This is like 2011, 2012. We were just We
Oh,
filmed a video, we posted it. Like,
oh, let me tell you. Whenever I started doing like the 2K stuff, I never really tried to join other places because whenever I started getting interested in it, everyone was on Xbox. I was on PlayStation. There was no like PlayStation feds.
Yeah, there was no cross-platform, no none of that.
There really wasn't a proper like PlayStation fed to like PS4 era.
That's true. That's true.
It's pretty much exclusively all of the 2K feds were Xbox. So I just, well, you know what? I'm just gonna make all my own custom characters and just make my own shows. And it was on WW13, and I remember starting the matches, I think I did it computer versus computer, turned my laptop towards the TV, filmed it on my laptop camera, and did the commentary live.
Wow. That's like grassroots.
Yeah. I didn't get a capture card till like 2 or 3 years later. And that thing sucked.
Oh no, like the more you learn about, like, I'm not overly tech savvy. I do graphic design and all that, but I'm not super tech savvy. So like we've tried to do, like, I do Twitch sometimes. I used to do Twitch, but learning all of that shit, you really need to understand how much goes into that.
Yeah, it's a very complex process, and I was not ready for that process at the time. So then when PlayStation, when I got my PS4 and it has the built-in recording option,
yeah.
So I'm like,
there we go.
I'm set. And then that's when I really kicked off and started connecting with people. And that's when more people started crossing over from, because, you know, Xbox One was universally trashed on. Everyone loved PS4, it felt like. So everyone jumped from Xbox to PlayStation. Now everyone's on PlayStation.
True. That, I mean, that's, like, I've watched a lot of 2K feds. The only one I was ever in was Rob's. And that was only for a very short time. A lot of feds I only go into for like one specific reason. Aside from my home feds, most of the feds that I'm in, I've wanted to be one-offs, and I've negotiated certain deals for that to be the case, or like it's a part-time status. A lot of the times that doesn't work out, and I get booked every week regardless. But it is a blessing and a curse.
I don't think about that kind of stuff ahead of time. When someone comes to me, it's either I don't have the time for this, or screw it, let's do it. And then we don't really talk about the terms for like how long I'm going to be around. It's just around until either the place collapses or I collapse.
Well, before the pandemic, I picked one fed only. Like that was. I'm in one fed, that's it. Yeah. But then during the pandemic, it just sort of spiraled into, I'm everywhere now. Whatever, fuck it.
Pre-pandemic, you know, we both kind of picked one place, and I think we picked the same place for the most part.
I did my short little runs in IW. We did the filth thing in IW, but I was a raging alcoholic at the time, so I did not have the patience to be an EFED performer at that juncture. So I quit the game for like 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was when the filth thing in IW popped up. That was like end of 2018.
Yep.
I think. Because the way everything worked out with that, in like my case, is still baffling to me, because it should not have happened. It wasn't supposed to happen.
No,
this was not supposed to happen. That was supposed to be fucking Jack Arson, not me. And then he went and, you know, did Jack Arson.
I'm glad it wasn't Jack Arson. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, and then Nick just hit me up one day, and I think the exact quote was, hey, you down to get filthy? And I'm like,
Filth, its inception traces back to a faction that TJ and I started in SPW called Hate Club. It was my first stint as a heel. I had just turned heel, and I joined up with him. And then that sort of evolved until a bunch of people quit SPW, started WPW, and then I was over there with the original Omen. And then Nick joined the first incarnation of Filth, which was him, TJ, a couple other people. And then that folded. I came back, had my big feud with Nick. That involved Alicia, Ancient History. That was her first foray into this. So a lot of the people that are lauded as big names today, they all got their start working next to me, across from me, like
so you that just around this like big circle of future stars.
Yeah, that was it. And then like we did
crazy list.
I joined IW in, I want to say 2016, 2017. Did a lot of stuff on Delta. I don't really remember what I was doing because I still wasn't who I am now. And so when Filth ended, I went, fuck it, I'm done. I had a short feud with TJ in 2019, which I don't really count. It was like 2 or 3 matches, and then that was supposed to be it. I was done. And then we roll around to 2020, and the SPW Hall of Fame comes around. Every member of SPW was going in that Hall of Fame except for me. And I was like, okay. So I inducted TJ. I was like a couple months sober at this point, and I said, fuck it. I had changed up my whole look. I had long black hair. So I reached out to David Jones. And I said, I want to come back. I'm ready to come back. And I thought maybe I would get put on Omega or Alpha or Delta. No. I was debuted in Riots. Which would... This is a whole fucking, like, Who
was running Riots at that time?
Matthew Mullins. Matthew Mullins was running Riots at that time. And they had their world champion, Mike Storm, who was just routinely beating the whole roster. every week, every month, he had nobody to challenge him. And that's not a knock on those guys. They weren't as good. They weren't ready. And so I show up, and I immediately point my finger at Mike Storm. We go back and forth for what seemed like an eternity. And after that, you start to see this influx of guys like Rob Rome and like that whole crew come into Riot. So I was at the epicenter of that group of future talent as well. And that doesn't happen without my feud with Mike Storm. So then I'm called up to Omega. And at this point, I was doing the Ultraviolent Twink in Riots. And then for Omega, they wanted something different. They wanted me to turn heel. I was a bit of a tweener.
Like
and
the whole, like, the stuffed bear and shit.
Yeah, Clancy. I had Clancy the stuffed bear. And so, immediate way to get heat. Everyone, the bear got over. I didn't get over. The bear got over.
I remember it was like, oh, there's a bear here. Cool.
Yeah, and I would talk to the bear. I did like a Macho Man thing, Miss Elizabeth. And so like the bear got over. So the instant heat was just to beat the shit out of the bear. So I beat the shit out of the bear, called myself Mr. Amazing, and I was shoved into the Blake Williams experience. Um, and that was fun for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I
And
mean, think about who you were with.
yeah,
You know,
like
it was Crowley.
me, Crowley, me, and Blake Williams, Keith Cypress. And so
There was a few other people in there too. There was wasn't Sebastian Saint was in there.
Sebastian Saint was in there for a minute.
Like,
it was
he was basically on his way out though.
It was towards the end of my run. I know that he joined up.
Because like I remember he was there for like, because he was there at the start of like when Blake Williams' experience started bumping heads with New Divine. Because I think we had started bumping heads with them maybe before you had gotten in there, and I kept calling him out, but he kept ignoring me, and then he eventually left and then fell off the face of the earth for like two or 3 years. And
I think that's why they brought me in.
He's back now, but
which was an excellent swerve, because what you guys were doing with Mason with the vignettes, those vignettes kept popping up, and everybody kept fucking messaging me like are you the Sublime one? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Yeah. And so like he pops up and then I pop up on opposite sides, and I thought that was pretty cool. And
then we had a array of matches at that
mini feud. That
was fun.
And I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy my time in Omega. I did. It started to become frustrating when I had made Crowley's intro, and then I learned his personal politics on this sort of thing, and I had gotten a bit frustrated with that. I was like, I don't want to work with it. Like, we kicked Roy Cease out for being an asshole. Let's do something about this.
That had just happened.
Yeah, it had just happened. And then all the shit with Alan Sherry went down, and I was like,
it's like,
fuck it.
What is going on here?
Yeah, I'm gonna explore my I wasn't going to quit until he started Gone again without them. And I asked straight up.
Yeah, I asked a lot of things that just went with all that.
I mean, I'm not meaning to dig up old shit. I'm just explaining what happened.
No, I mean, it's history. You know, like, you can't get history. You gotta.
It's what happened. I asked point blank, is Alan Sherry involved? They said no, so I turned on my camera. XWE, and I was gone. And for the past 3 years, I've been just killing every Fed I've been in. Like,
from what I remember around that time, like the Alan Sherry thing happened, and then you left. It was like those two things together kind of sparked a lot of like.
Oh yeah, no.
Like, things just started getting really weird at that point. In there,
mass exodus.
It was like what, a few months later that whole Exodus shit happened.
Yeah, it was not too long after that. Inciting incident. Again, I'm at the center of this huge fucking event thing, and
history here, man.
Yeah, so I then a couple months later, KG and fucking Conrad hit me up about HSW. And in the in-between time, I'd been in XWE, Jack Arson ruined my fucking face, and I get a gift. I had gotten a gift from JT, which is the one with the mask I have with all the fucking stitching on it and all that. Looks exactly like my face. So that was the genesis of Mr. Nobody. was that, and then they had hit me up.
That was a lot of context I wasn't really privy to, because like I didn't really know when that whole thing had come about. Cause I was staying well away from XWE at that time.
Like that's sort of like since the beginning. I've had, well, since 2020 at least, I've had this overarching thing that I wanted to do. Because if I was coming back to have a Hall of Fame career, I was going to have a fucking Hall of Fame career. So I if you notice, I place little nuggets in everything I do leading up to this point. And so just this section of it, I won the hardcore title in XWE, retired it, brought the Ultraviolent Championship. Me and Jack Arson face off for that. He ruins my face. Oh my god, I'm ugly. I'm so ugly. Blah blah blah. Wow, if only I knew somebody who could repair my face. Oh, so now it starts to make sense. I get this full face mask, and all of a sudden,
right now, I'll tell you this one off camera, but oh man, telling this is just like I'm loving this.
I'm still like, after it's all over, after the grand finale, there'll be a lot more stuff I can point to and say. But in terms of this was probably the moment where I knew where it was going to end. Because all throughout my entire, the past 11, 12 years, it's been one continuous story. A kid who thinks he's really good goes through all this bullshit trauma, and out on the other side comes this deranged monster who has influence after influence. And that leads perfectly into HSW, which started up because of the mass exodus that I was indirectly involved in. And they paired me up with Joey Taylor, which was perfect because we were doing similar things at the time. And they asked us to pick two people to be in a faction with us. And so we picked Dylan Mason and Crimson Wolf. Boom, the Ritual.
My brothers.
Oh yeah, because we had our eyes on the New Divine pretty much the whole time. When I came back, your group really interested me, and it interested TJ. So when we got a chance to pick a faction with the people who were drafted to the separate rosters, it just so happened that Dylan and Crimson were on our same roster. So HSW folds, and that leads us to today, where I'm just going around to every Fed imaginable. I'm back in IW, getting told I ain't shit by everybody, which I don't know if you're listening to this podcast. I think that's wrong. But just, I don't know, there's just a lot of history and a lot of story. A lot of people just turn on the camera and talk shit. I'm a storyteller, and I've been telling the story for so long, and I have this narrative in my head, how it began, where it ends.
I kind of operate in the same way. Everything I do, no matter where it is, connects to the overarching story. I mentioned it earlier in our group chat, how I hate the whole "if it didn't happen here, then it didn't happen" mentality.
No, it all happened.
I hate that. I personally hate that. So everywhere I do something, it matters to
exactly.
Even before connects across
even before
web.
Even before I was training to be a professional wrestler, I was in the mindset of, everything has a point. Everything I do means something.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've been out in all these different feds, everywhere I go, I get a reaction. Everywhere. I will just post a vignette, and people I've never interacted with pop for it. They go, "Oh my god,
Really?
fucking finally!" Like, it's a great feeling. And to go back to IW, and I had a very similar reaction when I showed up when my vignette played on Alpha. There was a very similar reaction. I mean, some people were like, who the fuck cares? But like, for the most part, it was and that was a good feeling, because that means that the people that did pop for it have paid attention. And with me, I know it's a big ask from the EFED community, but like, you have to pay attention to everything I do in order to get it. And if you don't, I mean, it's not required, but it will make way more sense if you look at everything I do, from leaving IW to all the shit that happened in XWE to beating Casey Moran in Full Throttle for the moniker of King of the Deathmatch. It's all one story. And it all has led back to IW, which is not where the story will end. Sorry, David. But it is all led back to here. And I'm just happy that the people that have fueled the fire and like I've been working with get what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually I definitely enjoy it whenever people just get it, and you don't have to really explain it. They just know.
Yeah, I like
that's one of the biggest reasons why I am so happy that my run in like the video fed world went the way it did by chance, and getting to kind of like pick the brains of everyone that I got a chance to very early on, you know.
Oh yeah.
Cause like I think about where I like fully started. I had a very brief run in video at like the end of 2017, but it really started like a year later with IW. That's where it all really started.
Yeah.
And one of the first people I worked with, fucking Arson. And say what you want about the guy. When he was on, he was on.
Yeah. I feel like the actual art of a promo has been sort of lost. The structure of it and I talk in not riddles most of the time, but I try to get my concise point across. I've never once turned on my camera, looked down the lens and say, I'm better than you. I'll always be better than you. I'm going to fucking destroy you. Watch this. I will powerbomb you and it will be over. 1, 2, 3. No, like, I will build you up before I will say all of those things, but I will build you up before we get to that spot.
Yeah.
Because that's what a promo is.
Yeah, there are very few instances where I feel inclined to just not bother giving a fuck about the person that I'm going against, because it's like, you know, if they work with you, they don't just frustrate you to no end and not work with you, then it's like, well, what do you do?
I mean, that's just the way that I operate. I constantly, because you never know. It's a story. Like, you don't want to just get on camera and tell someone you ain't shit. You ain't never gonna be shit. Like,
yeah, I know. I will. You know, I have kind of one of those things. You say you'll never. No one will catch you going on and saying I am better than you, and I always will be. My thing is, I will just never call myself the general best.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't stomach, because my thing is, when you can call yourself the best, you have no reason to be doing it anymore because
That's true. I mean, that's very true. It's always one of the best. One of.
Among the best. Something to
Among.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I feel a lot of the newer people doing this need to really get that structure down. Like, you don't gotta say the name of the venue or where you are. It helps, but just the structure of learning about your opponent.
Yeah, I don't think there are very few times where I've actually remembered to you mentioned the whole location thing. I don't know that I've ever actually meant. It is rare that I've ever actually thought to reference the area that the show is taking place in. I always forget it.
Now that I'm in the business, it's become a little bit more important to me. I don't do it every time still, but just you're trying to sell a ticket to this event that is happening. That is what a promo is. It is a promotional material. Buy tickets to see this fight. If you turn on your camera and you look down the lens and say, this fight's going to end in 3 seconds, that's not going to sell any tickets.
No.
It won't. You have to build it up to be a fight. Regardless of who your opponent is, regardless of their skill level, you have to build your opponent up. And, I don't see a lot of that happening from guys in the business who know how to cut a promo.
It's the most.
So
one of my go on.
It's just a gripe I have. And if that's your style, that's fine. But just for me, you're trying to sell an event, and I'll murder you in 3 seconds does not sell tickets.
No, one of my biggest pet peeves in EFED, and if you hear this and you get offended by it, that means you're one of them. Shooters.
Yeah.
That's not stand shoot style. I hate it.
Back in the days when none of us knew shit about Dick, that was fine. That's what it was.
Back in the 2016 era. I've heard so many stories about that era. It was way before my time in this realm of the world, but I've heard so many crazy fucking stories about that period of time where it was no fucking rules.
Oh yeah, it was the Wild West. It was awful. I hated it. I participated simply out of necessity. But I said it in XWE. If you pulled this shit in a real wrestling company, you would be fucking fired. Don't keep it within the context of kayfabe. If you don't have a personal kayfabe, that's fine. That's a persona. A persona is different from a character, but don't go after somebody else's real life self. Go after their character. Keep it consistent with the world that we are inhabiting.
People look at the one of the things that irks me when people say, but look at what it did for your fucking CM Punks, MJFs, and all that. It's but you think
that was a work shoot.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay, what you fucking idiots don't realize, okay, is that if this was genuinely not planned, they just said take this and go, and just bury whoever you want to bury. No,
it's not how a show is put together. Every shoot I've ever done, I've talked about it beforehand with another person. I shot on Josh Byers, but I went to Josh Byers and said, I'm going to say this, and this about your time in IW. What do you think of that? If he had said no, I wouldn't have cut the promo. You guys want to pretend to be wrestlers? Pretend to be wrestlers. There's an etiquette. And I don't know, just to put the like, it is okay to just take your camera out in the field and film a promo. Briscoes do it all the time, but they didn't shoot. They pretended to shoot. They pretended to shoot, but it wasn't an actual shoot. I mean, sometimes they shot real guns, but just learn how to do this. And if you're going to say something that you think might upset somebody, talk to them first.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who just don't look at this beyond the surface level. They just see it as, oh, hey, this thing I can just go on and just talk shit.
And an excuse to be mean on the internet.
Yeah, then there's, the ones like us who like kind of look at it as if it's actually, there's actually something to it.
And art.
Make something out of it.
Exactly. It's I treat it like the real business.
Yeah. Whenever I'm in an in-character situation, you will never catch me saying E-Fed in an in-character promo.
Yeah, exactly.
Never, ever once. It is
this game.
When the camera's on, it is the business.
We are professional. When the little red light comes on, we are professional wrestlers.
Yes. I ain't like when the camera's on, no, this ain't a fucking E-Feder. This is the real deal. Camera's off.
Yeah.
Just a fucking,
just a guy. But yeah, no, I've had this mentality for a long time, since before I was actually involved in the wrestling business. And I've explained E-Fed to real life professional wrestlers. It's cool. I would never bring them into E-Fed because, some of you fuckers can't behave. So that's
thing's cool in theory, but the execution more often than not is horribly botched.
In practice. It's just, there's a level of respect that I think needs to be taken from the real business to our little bubble. And a lot of people don't get that because, my rights. It's not rights. Like, you can't just come on the internet and be a fucking asshole. That's not how it works. It's not how it's ever worked. You can't go to a restaurant and just start yelling at a waiter for no goddamn reason. You shouldn't be able to do that on the internet. It's not how real life works. And I just feel like, there needs to be an etiquette.
Absolutely. I think if more people kind of had this understanding, things would be way easier.
I mean, some of the best shooters of all time are storytellers now. Look at Nick White. Look at Rain Carter, Tyler Throne. I
wonder what he's up to these days.
Probably way happier that he's not dealing with any of our crazy asses.
Probably. I don't know how long he was doing it before I popped up on the scene, but we came into IW at the exact same time.
Makes sense, because he did the whole IWPD thing.
Yeah, we came in at the exact same time. We were both in Delta at the exact same time, and then he stayed on Delta for a while, I think, before, or did he go to Omega? Because it was either he stayed on Delta for a little while and then got called up after me, because I know I came up to Alpha before him.
The first run-in I ever had with him was when he was in IWPD versus Phil. Yeah. And then when I came back, he asked, "Who is this?" I was like, "Motherfucker, we met before!"
That IWPD filth run is up there as one of my favorite things I've ever done. That was so much fun.
I'm glad of what came out of it. I'm not so much glad of the creative. We were more like the NWO, and that was not the original intent. But I am glad that I got to work with you and work with Throne and Klein, who is another great shooter.
Who has
He's another. He's crossed over. Like, I've talked to him and I've said, like, you were huge instrumental in my decision. Like him, Nick White, Grant Miller, instrumental in my decision to cross over into the real business. Simply because with Klein, regardless of whether you think he's a shooter or not, he's not actually a shooter.
No. He was, again, to Klein, he is the one who recruited me to IW.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of, and from there was a period of time where I think I don't remember when it was, but he had left at some point, but we had like kind of talked a lot while he was around, and then whatever happened, and he had like walked whenever that was, and just kind of fell out of touch with him. But yeah, the only
real heel in the game, aside from Mike Storm, who I had to coach along during our feud and be like, hey, just letting you know, reach out to your opponents, make sure they know that like this is shit like that. But like he made other people faces simply by being the best.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like one of my favorite people to work with around that time for sure. And there was something about that like early 2019 period that was just, for me personally, was just, I felt like I was just on a total high in that like period of like, I want to say August 2018 to like April 2019. Just like
that was
crazy high. And then
that was then you stopped for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I fucking, let's see, April 2019, I started working, and because like for like that whole time I had the reason I was so like noticeable and so active until like April was because I had no fucking job.
Right.
I had all the time in the world to do whatever I wanted, however I wanted. Once I started working, and my first job was one that made me want to, go swan dive off a bridge.
Yeah.
My first job was in a butcher shop.
And
it sucked.
Yeah, no, I bet.
Yeah. But yeah, like it was kind of around that time, from like April, sort of from that month, April 2019 to like January 2022. I feel like, well, disregard 2020 because 2020 was a good year, but like all of 2019, all of 2021 was just a steady decline.
I've had those moments.
My mental and physical was just completely off the fucking way off course. I had a bunch of shit going up here that I had no idea what it was. I just had no idea what was going on and had no idea where to go to get it figured out. And then physically, I was way north of fucking 400 pounds, bro.
Oh shit!
I was big boy.
Feel that.
Yeah. But from like last October to now, it's kind of been another one of those like big like high rides, I want to say.
No, yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Mental health comes first. I took a small break towards the beginning of 2022. I want to say like shortly after HSW closed down. And just like
the time I had pieced out also.
Yeah, just little breaks. Especially like I don't consider myself terminally online. But like the internet does not help your mental health. It never has. It never will. You just gotta sometimes just unplug, man. Like
Yep.
unplug. Uh, I'm trying to get a therapist right now, simply because I suffer from my own mental health um, issues. I don't know if anybody can tell from my work, um, but yeah, no, it's just you got to do what you got to do. Your own health comes first, and that's just what it is. I thank the actual pro wrestling business for giving me a little bit of structure. Um, it hasn't helped EFED at all. I'm still getting booked everywhere, but I'm not really paying attention. I don't know if y'all can tell.
Mm, yeah. Uh, yeah, I know. When I found out you were making the crossover, I'm just like, fuck yeah, let's go.
That I mean, it certainly has been a trip. I've wanted to do this since I was 8 years old, and I train at Next Gen Pro Wrestling Center in New Hampshire, um, run by Bud Browning, who is a student of Steve Bradley. Uh, Other trainers there, Julian Starr, former WWE job guy Maverick Wild, who is another student of Steve Bradley, and Steve Bradley um, was the guy that trained Kurt Angle.
Oh shit.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, there's a lineage there. Um, it's adjacent to the Kowalski lineage, which the Kowalski lineage leads right into New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which is where people like Sasha Banks came from, Kofi Kingston. Um, so just wrestling in New England, there's a lot of ties to New England that you wouldn't even think of. Mofo Steve Bradley kind of was one of the instrumental parts of that. And to be under the learning tree of people that learned from him, people that have worked for the Indies, have worked for Vince, it's just sort of been kind of like an eye-opening experience because I see the entire business in a different way. I see EFED in a different way now than I did before. Because I've taken stuff that I've learned from there and I've applied it here, and I've taken stuff that I've done here and I'm trying to apply it there, and the crossover is actually kind of insane to me because when I was working with Just Plain Filthy, which still exists, but just not in the capacity that I did before, I did a lot of networking with pro wrestlers and the business itself simply by nature of doing a podcast about it. So having a little bit of a leg up there hasn't helped me as much as like you would think it would, but it did a little.
Mhm.
Just in terms of, oh, I know this person. Oh, I've met this person before. Like we know we know of each other. We have run in the same circles and stuff like that. And the ways that EFED has helped is I already know how to promo. I already know how to talk. My first class, I cut a promo for one of the trainers, and after I'd say a minute, he gave me 90 seconds, cut a quick 90-second jammer, and he said, "That was really good. How do you how?" And I had to explain to him what EFED was, which was mortifying.
Right.
So that's just how that goes, and just nothing can prepare you for the wrestling business, but if anything could, it would be in small part EFED. Again, I had other
Yeah, you think about
dalliances
how many people started.
in EFED, yeah.
Think about how many. Yeah, like
JD
oh
Drake.
man. Yeah, JD Drake's one right now. Running around in AEW and other places.
Yeah,
I bet
JD.
if Josh was on, if Josh was on here right now, he'd rattle off like a million different names of people
Uh,
that he knew started out doing e-feds, and then Jordan Grace is another one.
Yep. Yep. Jordan Grace. Kid Bandit. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Klein. I know Nick White did it in reverse. Why would you do that? But yeah, no, that's just where my life is at right now. It did play a factor into my decision to eventually end my EFED career. I always knew what I wanted to do for the ending, but now I've got a set date in mind. 2024, I'm out. So if you want to match with me between now and then, get on it. I know Nick Harrison's out of the game, but if you ever want to come back, Nick Harrison, one of the reasons I'm back in IW is you. It's you, Dave Barron, obviously Rocky T. But just, I never set out to be like a mythic figure in this game, but there are a few people that I can think of that are, and I want to face all of them before I'm done. Mm-hmm. Get a few notches under my belt, and have fun, because that's what it is. It's fun. This is my opus. This is my epic, and the few people that have stepped up to be a part of it, I'm so glad that they did. Like Casey Moran, Nick White, whose part to play is not in a wrestling capacity. I'd never want to fucking step foot in a ring with Nick White again. Air quotes.
It's okay. I'll punch him for you.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, you do it. You do it. I'm done. If I never turn on a camera and say Nick White, Nick Maglio, Alicia White, Alicia Maglio ever again, I would be so happy.
There's a few people I can say that about for myself. I can't think of their names right now, but they're out there.
I mean, I get it. That's the rivalry.
Yeah.
That's I did it for Grant and Pro because I knew that's what he wanted to see. And but it just seems wherever Nick and I go, we end up on a collision course. And so he's probably my greatest rival. I know you're up there. We've had some matches.
Couple.
TJ Vegas.
For sure.
TJ Vegas is definitely another one. Simply because like my whole shit is I'm better than TJ Vegas. I'm better than Joey Taylor. Never had a one-on-one with Joey Taylor. Never got that, but he did show up to kill me once, which was fun. So just in terms of people I face, Mike Storm, that's a rivalry. That doesn't seem to end everywhere. We end up in the same space. That seems to be it. I almost had a match with Corey Heck. We were building toward, and then
someone I missed out.
NEW closed. That's one I've always wanted to do, because Corey and I, like, I've heard Corey Heck's name forever.
Yeah.
Just simply on the principle.
Around, and I completely missed the boat on Corey.
Yeah, simply on principle of how I work. Like,
I always miss there's a lot of people that I've always just completely missed out on the boat on. Corey's one. I've never worked with Rob Roman.
I got to work with Rob and NEW.
I'll tell you what, this one, I've always worked alongside this guy, never against Wolf.
I worked Wolf
Mason.
once.
I've worked Mason.
Mason is another rival.
I've worked Mason a time or two, never, and haven't had the chance to really properly work Crimson yet.
Another one of my favorite people to work with is Mason. But that's another thing. People I want to work with. I want to work with Nick Harrison. Never worked with Nick Harrison. Think I missed the boat on that. Dave Barron, somehow never worked with Dave Barron. I've worked with Sean Jackson and Jeremiah Woods a bunch. Sweethearts, total sweethearts. Always been really good to me.
Love them both.
Great guys. I want to work with Rain Carter, simply because I've never worked with Rain Carter. Before I'm done, I've got a list of people. I'm gonna get that Heck match because people have been like, "Oh, you and Corey Heck would banger. You guys are the same." Like,
it's been so long since I've seen any of his stuff. I almost forget what his material even is like most of the time. It's been a while. It's been a couple years, I think, since I've seen any of his stuff around, because he's pretty much kind of out of it too these days.
When I came to NEW, I saw his work, and it was when he had the title and he was forever champion. He was treating it like a curse. He has hood up, and he was like, "This title, I pray somebody will take." Like, and I saw his work, and I was like, "Oh, that's why." Like, it's the same, the same cadence, the same sort of demeanor, very quiet, intense.
Yeah.
And it's just someone I wanted to work with a very long time. That's just what I'm here for. And I'll work with up and coming guys too. Johnny Gage is somebody I really like.
Good guy. Did a few
good guy.
My previous IW run did some stuff with him.
I one note I would have for him,
running the fucking place.
One note I would have for him is sort of maybe stick to one of your gimmicks, just for him in general. I think the foundation of what you are doing is so solid. And this is unprompted coaching, and I'm sorry, but I love your work and I want to see you improve. Just sort of and this goes for anybody really. If you're new to this, find your niche. Find one specific thing that you do really well, and just work on that. Hammer that in. For me, it was. In the beginning, I had trouble keeping the pace of my promo because I would really quiet to really loud, and I found that working quiet for the majority of the promo really worked for me. So I would just work on that, and then in the moments where I needed to be really loud, I would get really loud, and then I would go back down.
Yeah. I know that was one of the things you told me that really stuck with me was the level.
Yeah, I mean it's you're building. You're not.
No, one thing.
Chopping.
One of the things I had heard, because I just recently started talking a bit with Fox.
Mhm.
Got connected with him recently.
That's
And
another person I want to work with.
yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to work with him yet, and hopefully that'll happen very soon. It needs to, because
Oh,
fuck.
definitely.
I've only
He's
known
so
the guy,
good.
I've known the guy barely a month, and I love him to death already. But one of the things he had, because he had watched a couple of my stuff, and he said I might have some of the most intimidating eye contact he has ever seen in a promo.
Yeah, that's another big thing. Is keeping somebody's attention. It's all about the eyes.
Yeah,
And I
think
know.
his exact line of it was, he said, like, it's almost uncomfortable the way I do, and then I look away for a few seconds, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can finally breathe now, and then look back, and it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's the thing that I do a lot. And even in promos, you can't see my eyes. You know where they are.
Yeah.
Because you'll get like a slight little flash of them.
That's like one of the little like details with like, like posts and stuff, whenever you whether it's just like a natural lighting thing or a post edit, if like you end up not being able to see the eyes, but it's like, if it's someone who's good with the eye contact, you can't see their eyes in the video. It's like, okay, you can't see their eyes, but you know where they're looking right now. You know they're looking
exactly.
Fucking soul. And to me, nothing is more terrifying than something you can't see, but you know it's there.
Yeah, no, that's that is very much a reason I do that. And like sometimes it's lighting constraints or whatever, but like there's just there's something very ominous about just not being able to see the eyes. And in a lot of promos where I have the mask, my eyes are just white dots.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know whether or not you're like, it takes you a second to be like, oh, he's looking at me. And there's just something, try to go for as unsettling as possible. Even promos where I don't wear the mask, I'm always making that room look grungy, so that the environment fits the aesthetic. And that's another thing that a lot of newer guys have to learn, that if you have this character that you're building, make sure the environment that they're in fits the aesthetic. Yeah. It takes 5 seconds to learn how to put a filter on your video. Believe me, I learned how to do it. Took me 5 minutes. Just because there's a lot of people who are so talented, but I feel like there are limitations in just editing. And like, people make editing out to be this big thing, and Ethan, it's really not. Like, you have the main video file with a filter on it, duplicate that, put it over, add a flicker effect, turn down the brightness on one of the things. My lights are never actually flickering. There's never an actual fire in front of my face.
Yeah, like, this isn't practical effects, dog.
Yeah, exactly. It's all promos. Black room, if I'm chilling in the void, that's never a void. That is simply white balancing on my face darkens the whole room behind me. It's a lighting trick.
Yeah.
I own a green screen. I've never once used it for Ethan.
Well, I can't really speak on that subject.
Well, it's just simple things. Once you learn how to do them, it's like riding a bike. And these are skills that you can use for anything, really. So, just EFED has helped my creativity in that regard.
Oh yeah, it's been a great creative outlet, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I know how to do a ton of things I wouldn't have known how to do. And I went to school for video production for like 2 years. Like,
Yeah, and there's stuff you picked up doing this shit that you probably didn't even think about in a fucking classroom.
Oh hell no, no. Get inventive with your shit.
Yeah, it's all just like trial and error. Honestly,
Yeah,
do what you do until you find what works. It's kind of the way I went.
exactly.
It's kind of went trial and error until something stuck.
Yeah, and
In a way, there's still a lot of I'm nowhere even close to my final form yet. I'm still trial and erroring a lot of shit even now, like almost 6 years in.
exactly. There's before 2020. I didn't edit my videos. I cut a promo and I put it up. That's just how it was. Now I couldn't think of doing that. Just the way my brain works. If it's not perfect, I'm not putting it out. That's.
Oh, I've gone so far one time where I even fully recorded, finished it, had it in the editing, had just finished editing, went to process it, and then I remembered, oh, there was this one thing in there. And then it haunts me, and I'm like, well, trash this fucking thing. Time to go turn the shit back on. Try it again.
Yup. But yeah, no, that's my story, and I don't know how much more we can talk about, actually.
Yeah, we've done. I mean, it's funny because we basically hit almost everything.
Almost everything. What we got left
that I had written down. I think. I guess just a couple little rapid fires of a few of some of these that I don't think we really hit on that I can think of. What would you say is probably the favorite match you've done? Favorite person you've done with, and the favorite match with them, like the one thing that's as of now. Obviously, there could be something come a week or two from now that tops whatever's currently number one. But what's number one right now?
It's a toss up. I had a really good program with Josh Byers and BLW recently, but my all-time favorite back and forth that I've had to have been me and Nick White Nagan. I lost, but it's just, even without rebuttals, I noticed that I can't do comp because even without rebuttals, I end up telling a story with this person anyway.
Yeah.
Vaguely. Like, without even watching their promos. If it's somebody that I know very well, we're basically saying the same. We're going back and forth without even realizing it. And that's another one of those things that happened with Nick. Simply because we've done this with each other 1,000,002 times. But yeah, right now that's the top. Another favorite of mine is always working with Mike Storm. Really good shit from him. Rob Roman, another great match I had with him in NEW. Only time that's ever happened. Working with you recently in your Fed was fantastic.
Which I'm glad to do that before I threw the thing into a state of fucking limbo.
Hey, it is what it is, but like,
it's not. I wouldn't call it dead yet, but I don't know. There's a lot of shit to work out there.
Yeah, it's in terms of just people that I face that I love working with and have a good rapport and back and forth with. Those are the people. TJ Vegas is always solid. I don't always get to work with him, which
yeah, He's someone that this is, we've got the big War Games thing coming up in XWE, and me and him are both in that. I think this is my last shot. I think this is probably my last shot to really get a good dig at him.
Oh yeah, no, it's
Because I think I only ever had one match with him, and that was during one of my decline spells.
yeah.
So he didn't get me at a good time. I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, this is a now or never situation, because like he's someone who I figured when he walked, I'm like, oh, he's never fucking coming back. He's done.
Oh yeah, no, I believe you me.
Talk to him numerous times and kind of getting to know him to some extent. I'm like, yeah, he's one of these guys where it's like, yeah,
Retirement means retirement.
if he's ever coming back, it's for something important.
Yeah. That's very much his mindset.
Yeah.
It's just this game. Sometimes even if you're very good at it, very taxing.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a heart. He's one of the best people I know. So like, don't let. He'll fucking kill me for saying this, but like, there's a lot of mystique around Joey Taylor, and he really is just one of the best human beings. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Simply put, he's probably the best to ever do this ever, and a lot of people say they are.
I confidently put him on as my number one. Honestly, like he's really the top for me.
It should be obvious, but yeah, which is why it's a great honor to get to do what I'm doing now, and to sort of carry that, like, because I know he's back now. Everybody's been fucking telling me he's back. Like, yeah, I know, I get it. But just to have one of the original masks and get to do all of the things, just having access to all the assets of this character and putting my own spin on that, and getting to really close out just this sprawling sort of saga of filth in general has been the highlight of my life. And he didn't have to do that. In fact, when I got my first mask, he could have told me, no, fuck off, don't do that. But he didn't. I was able to create Mr. Nobody and really get just sort of the essence of my own take on this memorable character, and then getting to work with him in the ritual and sort of forever tying these two characters together, to just now everybody knowing what this mask means, what the screwdriver means, what hi means. Nick White, it is not yours. Stop doing it.
Because that's the first one I heard it from. I actually
everybody thinks it's Nick. It's filth as a whole.
He just kind of adopted it and carried on with it.
Yeah, and then it was Joey's for what? Like I said in my induction speech for TJ, like, he took a greeting and made it the scariest fucking thing ever.
Yeah,
like
a fucking two-letter word.
A two-letter word. Something that you use to signify.
A two-letter word. Yeah, a two-letter word and 5 fingers.
A salutation, and he made it the most terrifying thing ever. And
you hear when every time I would queue up a Joey promo and I'd hear that,
it sends a shiver down your spine, and like, it's great, but it doesn't really have the same like effect So just being able to use those two things in tandem has been fantastic, and I can't wait until we get closer to the end of this and all of these vines sort of tangle together and people see the end. Because the people I have talked to about what's coming say it's one of the most ambitious fucking things that the game has ever seen. So, big thing that about what I've been doing is a lot of it is kayfabe. Like, I don't get the respect I deserve, yada yada yada. But there's an element of truth to that, and at the end of the day, I just want people to be entertained. Yeah, that's it. Like that's my.
That's all it comes down to. Just entertain. We're just entertaining an audience.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's all it is. And if you watched, thank you, and if you know of me, thank you. If you ever popped when I've showed up in one of these feds, and we've never interacted before, thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. I mean, a lot of the times I go, why? Like,
yeah.
But that's just the long and short of it is, I'm trying to do something in this game that's never been done before, and
yeah.
I can't wait to see the end.
Yeah, like I am personally invested in where this story of yours is going, and the next year is going. I believe it's going to be an absolutely wild ride. I'm buckled in for it. We're ready to go. Let's fucking go.
It's going to be insane. I've gotten my roses in a ton of places already. Hoping to add a few more to that list. And just, if this podcast is anything to go by, I hope people start to notice how important. I don't want to like sound conceited, but like a lot of big shit I was just sort of tangentially related to, and I feel like a lot of people just sort of brush me off, which, you know, it doesn't really bother me. At the end of the day, I put my phone down, I go and do whatever it is the fuck I do. But in context of EFED, it kind of does, because like this community is just sort of ballooned.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, we're not getting paid for this. So, but if you're not going to at least show me a modicum of respect and appreciation for being one of the people that fucking started this whole Facebook mess. Because I know EFED's been around for fucking ever, but like in terms of Facebook, SPW was one of the first. And just to have been around this long and still have people who've known me for years sort of look down instead of directly across from, that kind of irks me a little bit. Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm just like, no, it's just kind of annoying. Like,
right.
But other than that, like in EFED, I have no complaints other than, you know, what we talked about earlier. But that's my EFED journey. That's my story. I'm sticking to it, and
hell of a story to tell. It's not done yet.
Oh no,
not done yet.
October 31st, 2024.
Mark it down.
Mark it down, and that's the end.
2024 calendars aren't out yet, so remember this, and then next January, mark it down.
Put it in your phone. Your phone goes all the way up to 3,000.
Yeah, it's 2023. The fuck am I talking about? Who has a paper calendar anymore?
Exactly.
We do. That's who.
Oh yeah. No, I've got one around here, but
yeah. But well,
I'm sorry. That started off as like a rapid fire thing. Oops.
That's all right. Honestly, we've pretty much cleared it. Honestly, got about an hour and a half in. That's a good spot.
Wow, I talked a lot. There we go.
But thanks for doing this. Appreciate you coming on and chatting.
Not a problem. I feel like. Oh yeah, I just feel like with my station, I don't really get to talk to people out of character all that often.
Yeah, I enjoy kind of getting to communicate with people when I get a shot, just to kind of,
Yeah.
I'm a curious.
No, thanks for inviting me.
Anyone who might be watching this who has shit to say, the door is open. Hit me up, and we'll work some shit out. But until that day comes, thanks for watching, and I will see everyone next time.
Bye.
If you're someone who has some history or some stories in the eFed community that you would like to talk about on a platform, well, I've got the place for you right here on the Unplugged Podcast. Just hit me up and we will schedule a show just for you. As always, thank you for watching and listening, and I will talk to all of you later on.